We're live now, but I don't see people coming in yet.
I see
Oh,
them.
there they are. Okay, there's our lovely people.
They're popping
All
in.
right, hello everyone. I'm
Hi,
here today with
everyone.
Will Fullwood and Dr. Stephanie Wilson. Why don't you, Will, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll let Stephanie introduce herself.
All right. Yeah. What's up, everybody? My name is Will Fullwood, creator of the Contraband Wagon, where I'm changing the conversation on race. I am an anti-racism activist, former professor of mathematics and English, and I'm really excited to be here talking with these two esteemed individuals.
Hey, I am Stephanie Wilson. I am the host and the writer of Freedom Over Fascism. I'm a historian by training, and I want to continue the conversation of what our vision ought to be about this country once we get past this fascism, and also how to get past it. But we need to have a vision. We can't just go back to the way things were. So I want to talk about that.
Oh, yeah, that's why I call it Epstein and soft secession and the structure of our activism. And in talking with you two leading up to this, it occurs to me what's really hard is it seems like we need to have some activism that's designed for right now, and some that's designed for like 2 months from now and a year from now, and some that's designed for our overarching thing. And I think sometimes they clash a little bit, and we have to be careful on, because it's like I know I've been trying. You try to work within the system, and I've been trying to do that. And then it's like I do know the system is corrupt, but we're working within the system, trying to fix it. But we're at the point now, and I know Will has comments on this, or it's like more and more I'm just getting to like, oh, is there anything worth saving here? So I don't know, what do you think about that, Will?
Oh man, there's always something worth saving, you know. In my personal opinion, yeah, I do think that there's stuff worth saving, but I just think that we need to radically change the way that we operate, politically, socially, economically, legally. That's where we're at. That's just where we're at. That's just the reality of the situation. And I think that a lot of people are not there, and a lot of people are fearful. A lot of people feel that that's something that needs to happen, but they're just stuck in fear, or stuck in denial. I think that's where most people are right now. So, at least that that's something that needs at least in the race context, what I focus on is just try to get people to think on the individual level and do some self-reflection to understand what kind of future world do they want to be a part of, right? Because they're imagining something that hasn't existed yet, right? Ever in this country. So, that's a difficult thing to do when you've been taught that the limits of your imagination are here, right? Like are just what you know about America, whatever indoctrination you've been fed, whatever story about the country that you believed. I think a lot of people are coming out of their stories, and that's the work that I do is help people transition that way and create space for people to have that amount of self-reflection involved, right? And the chance to grieve, and forget about, you know, living the life they imagined they were going to live, right? Like experiencing life the way they thought they were going to live. It could be very difficult, right, to accept that that's not going to happen when it's all you ever imagined, right? So giving people the space to imagine something different is critically important at this time. And I know that's where I can at least do some good. I can create that space and I can help guide people through that process.
Well, I think that's super important, especially, as we change the conversation from, oh, we've got to stop this fascism and get back to where we were, which is never where we wanted to be, to maybe we need to, rethink the thing entirely, because maybe what was great 250 years ago it isn't going to work for now. And all the things that we've done to make it okay have only worked partially.
Will, you said something too, this Epstein thing, and you mentioned in one of your comments that you didn't see it so much as a moment of change, but just as a moment where people can finally see how corrupt everything actually is. Maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, just I think people who still think there's going to be some kind of accountability for these sexual predators, in high places. I just think that that is a fantasy that's again, I think it's just difficult for people to let go of this idea of of an actual sense of justice, across all class levels. It's very clear that no one's even saying, right, that little phrase that we heard all the time, nobody is above the law. No one's even pretending that is true at this point in time. It's now transparently been shown that that's not the case. So, you know, I just see that as another way of people coming into what reality actually is. And like I said, it's super painful, right? I know it was painful for myself, just reflecting on my own understanding of, oh, like this is not really a meritocracy, no matter how hard I work, some racialized white women always stood in my way, getting opportunities, getting money, advancing myself, even when I'm trying to offer of myself freely, to help others. Someone would stand in my way, not wanting to let me shine. And I realized that, oh, this is part of a system, right? For me, it was understanding a system of white supremacy that I was involved in that I wasn't really talked about openly, even with the independent study I'd done on my own. The experiences that I had were not really encompassed in that study, even though they kind of um, touched on it, tangentially. So it really took me a lot of space and time to reflect upon my experiences and understand, okay, this is the world that I'm really living in. This is the way things actually are. And I need to now act accordingly. And it was very upsetting for me, right? Because um, I wanted to believe in that world, that I would be recognized for what I had to offer, that I would be, um, rewarded, for what I could bring to the table. And that has just never been the case. And eventually, I held on to it for many years, these ideas, even as I was learning about white supremacy. But eventually I had to let it go, right? Because it wasn't true, you know? And eventually I had to accept that reality. And I had to give myself a lot of space and time to do that. So for me, I think it's just critically important at this time to give other people that same space and time. And even though we're in an emergency situation right now and have been for some time, you can't rush it. Everybody's got to go through their own individual reckoning in their own time. Um, but like I said, what we can do is create an environment where people can go through that process, and I think that there's virtually no environment for people to do that in America. Like, there's very few places where people can actually go through that. So that's why I appreciate things like the conversations you're hosting, Walter, and the work that you're doing, Stephanie, because you guys are creating space for people to reflect. And that's really what we need, whether it's reading your articles, whether it's having conversations amongst their own social circle, or just listening to us have these conversations. One last thing. One guest from my show, The Contraband Wagon, where I have conversations with people about race, frank conversations, open conversations, and create that safe environment for people. After one of them, I got a message from somebody who was watching, and what she said to me was, that was so healing because it's the conversation I want to have with my friends, right?
Mm.
And so it kind of gave her not only some sense of belonging and connection, but also hopefully gave her the courage to actually have that conversation with her friends and give it a go and accept whatever comes back to her on that. Walter, we talked last time about how I'm having to cut people off, I'm having to find out what people believe and cut them off. And that's just where I'm at, like, I mean, my values are what they are. Their values are what they are. If they don't align and that's their decision, then I got to keep it moving. And so again, having the time and space for that and energy for that is critical. So I just try to make it.
Yes. Stephanie?
Well, I think there's a lot of grief in that process, and I don't think that there is space for individual or collective grief right now. And I love what you say about, um, giving people the space to, understand the systems. But I think that we have such a long way to go. If we're ever going to make something different, we have to understand what has come before, and we have to acknowledge it and reckon with it, because like going back and forgetting the long awful history of white supremacy in this country, if we don't take that into account when we eventually create something new, then, we've lost a big opportunity and probably haven't made that much progress. Um, and so I think that that is really important, and I think it'll take a lot longer than we think it'll take. I think that this is a work of I think we need to expand our scope of, like, the arc of time. We're used to things in America taking very little time, or at least imagining that it takes a little time. But we're, I think, talking generation or generations, which kills me because I have a kid who's a senior in high school right now, and, like, I don't want his entire future to not exist, really. But I also don't think we're gonna be able to, like, when I say we eventually will get through this fascism, I'm talking, like, generations, war, civil war, I don't know, but it's gonna have to be big. So there's some, rhetorical diminishment of what I think is in front of us. Um, and the steps that I think are gonna have to happen, and
Yeah.
the pain that's already happening, uh, that's going to expand. People, oh, back in 22 would say to me, or 20 or 18, "Oh my god, is there no bottom?" And I thought, "Holy shit, we're nowhere close to the bottom here. We know where the bottom is." And and the bottom is closer than it was, but, like, that bottom includes a lot of death. And, that's another thing to reckon with, you know? That
Do you want to? Do you want to respond to that, Will? Or
Oh, yeah, I mean, she said it, right?
I thought
Like,
so.
I mean,
Wonderful.
that's exactly right. I mean, it's gonna include a lot of death. I've been saying that to people pretty overtly for a while now, and it's very sad to me because you said, "Oh, we know where the bottom is." I don't think a lot of people do. I think
Oh,
that's one of
yeah,
our biggest problems is that people do not know where the bottom is. They don't know the depths of evil that we're facing. And
right.
yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues, and it's part of that grief that you mentioned earlier too, is that people have to come to terms with the evil they've been living with, the evil they've been sleeping with, the evil they've been in communion with. You know, that
Yeah.
is a very difficult thing to acknowledge and accept. Um, so yeah, no, I think that you said it very well, and this is going to take time. I do think on the time issue, it's hard to say because timelines are getting all wacky right now with technology. Technology has really put a wrench in making predictions based on time. I would say, as somebody who's made a lot of predictions in my life, a lot of accurate ones,
Yeah.
I don't even try right now because I feel not only are we entering into a phase of American history where like a lot of novel things are happening and going to continue to happen, but also um, with the advent of technology, everything has been both right now, everything is getting fast forwarded. Now, I don't know how long that'll continue and if things will kind of level out or go back and forth and seesaw. I have absolutely no idea what's about to happen time wise, but I agree with your assessment that it's going to take generations. I don't think this is something that can happen quickly just because of the nature of what we already have. And with the power that we have to fight against. And yeah, that's one thing, Walter, that you and I have kind of been hinting at. Maybe we could talk about it more directly right now, but the power that we have to organize in order to actually fight back against fascism, I would say is virtually non-existent right now. Like it's so that's another reason why I think it'll take generations, just like Stephanie said.
I want to add a couple of people have been mentioning because we've been talking on a big scope, and I want to get it back down to like this moment. And my wife always teases me because I'll make a plan for something. I'll have contingency plans. It's always one, two, three plans. And like right now my brain is in overdrive exactly because what Will says. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. Like tomorrow is completely different. So my focus has been on my kids, and I still think it's like having an exit strategy for my kids is the thing that gives me kind of some peace where they have the opportunity, but it has to be they have the opportunity to succeed if America does kind of right itself, and I can hope for that. But they also have a chance to escape and do well in another place if that's what we have to do, so that they're not. I mean, they're just not. It's not going to happen that they're going to be the sex toys of billionaires. That I'm not going to allow that. And even though, like what you said before, the bigger aspect of this, we have to. These guys are probably not going to be held accountable. On a large philosophical sense, yeah, you have to resign yourself to that. But as a father, it's like I have to think about that in that other aspect of like how I have to stand up for my daughters. And so, yeah, I think the thing that keeps me going now is having some hopefulness. I mean, the Democrats did just win another election yesterday. I think it was, what was it, the Virginia congressional district. So we got another person, we got another seat. And it's like, maybe it's foolish to have any faith in elections because of the last election cycle. But at the same time, it's like, it's like, well, I can't, at this point in time, I can't like make the elections not be corrupt. And elections are always rigged in the United States with gerrymandering, with voter suppression, with all kinds of things. So doing what we can, I think, is one good strategy but we need a lot of strategies. It's kind of what I keep wanting to come back to. It's like, do this until it's blatantly clear that this is a waste of your time, then move over to here, do something to protect your kids, be hopeful for the future, implement activities for that. But yeah, everything is such a mess right now. It's just, I don't know what one's going to work. I'm just trying to be useful right now.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think one of the things that I talked about yesterday with the head of Giffords is the idea that hope isn't a state of mind, it's a series of actions, and those are actions that we need to be taking. But, um and she did a good job of encouraging me that, some optimism can that is out there given, what organizations like theirs are doing. Um, but I'm with you, Walter. Like with the kid, so I already have the unbelievable privilege of living in Massachusetts, like where our government is doing all the right things. Um, But there's a big piece of me that's like, do I need to get out now? Like, and the family's not going to. So do we as a small unit go somewhere when none of our extendeds are going to go somewhere? Um, where would I send my kid to school? How far away from me do I want him to be? I already told him he wasn't going to the South. And at first he wanted to, um, argue with me, and I was like, "Really? You wanna go somewhere where, trans people are,
Yeah.
where there's the racism and the anti-trans and the no body autonomy? Really? That's where you wanna go?" He's like, "Yeah, no." But I really hear you about making plans not I feel like since the pandemic, there's no planning. Like, remember how naive we were before March of 2020, where we thought we could make a plan to go on vacation in 3 months? Nope, you know? And to your point, well, when you were talking about time, I feel like that's when time got totally fucked up. Like, uh, since 2020, time has completely lost or changed its meaning, and I don't know where that is taking us, really.
Me
Is it
either.
technology? Is it just that I don't know, but
No, I mean, me either. I really don't know either. That's why I don't even speak on it anymore. I'm just like, I'm right along the ride with everybody else, right? And we just gotta see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I don't have kids like you guys, but I can't even imagine raising a kid at this time, to be honest. Like, I mean, as a teacher, obviously I've taught many kids. I've taught ages 3 to 73. I've taught in all kinds of different scenarios and I've mentored a lot of kids. And Um, I don't know what to say to young people right now. It's very hard for me, I could tell them what I'm doing, and I can encourage them to, kind of what you said about hoping a series of actions, right? I say something very similar. I see caring as an action. That's what I say. You can't care about something in your own head and have that be meaningful. You've got to actually do something to reflect your level of care. And so I just want to encourage people to do that. But beyond that general advice, it's very difficult for me to say what people should do. I basically have to give up on my entire career twice in order to, because it wasn't going to happen, or it was going to happen and I was going to be exploited or oppressed or suppressed. And I didn't want to exist that way. So I really had to give all that up. I don't want to tell young people to give up all their dreams or anything, but I do need to teach them to think about dreaming outside of the box that they've been given to think within. The same thing I'm doing for adults, but of course it's even more important for the young people, right? Because they're the ones who are going to have to show their caring through action, show their hope through action, and spread that. They're the ones who make political movements succeed. They're the ones who make political action happen. So, but yeah, man, I don't know. Like, I mentioned this in an earlier conversation we had, Walter, where I was in my previous job and they're talking about installing semi bulletproof glass in the college. And they're literally telling us, well, listen, it won't stop the bullets, but it'll slow them down enough so that if they do hit you, like this is a real conversation that they're sitting down and having with us. And for me, like if I were a young person seeing all these school shootings everywhere, all of this violence all around me, and everyone just going about business as usual, I can't. I think it's then hard to then tell people that they should have like some kind of hope, those messages are like in conflict, right? And then it confuses people. They're like, what do you mean I should have hope? What should I be hoping for? Not to get shot when I go to school. What should I be hoping for? Like to be able to, I know I can't afford a home when I grow up. Like, should I be hoping, like it's like, what should I hope for? And I don't think, and maybe this is a good segue, I don't think the Democratic Party is very good at presenting a hopeful vision for the future. And I don't think that's their intention either. And so I think that that is something that's going to take a while for enough people to come around to. And I told you earlier, Walter, I do think a third party is in order and will happen, in my personal opinion.
I want to say there is some value, I think, in not having illusions, not having illusions about the danger we're in, and it's always hard. But once you just confront that reality of you're probably not going to retire, you're a lot more likely that you're going to be shot while defending your children right now. I mean, that's not alarmist. They're abducting children. The government is with these raids and things like that. It's just one of those because I've got immigrant kids, and my wife's an immigrant, so it's like they're a target, and so I have to walk through that scenario in my mind. It's like when I'm at events with them, it's like, why are you here? It's like because if I've already had to walk through this, I'm not gonna. I've talked to people that are assault survivors. They say don't let them take you somewhere. Anything is better than letting them take you somewhere. So once you just take that change, you accept that reality in your own mind when you're talking to people, then you can convey that urgency better, I think. And we do get into that habit of getting caught in that denial. The point about the Democrats is because they're so frustrating because they all live in their gated communities, the majority of our big funded representatives, and they just don't see these dangers like we do. And the more that we can convey to them what we're feeling in this terror, because this is not the silver lining that I've seen, is like I've been so much more dedicated lately in my own thoughts with just having good days with my kids. Because there's just that real present threat that we might all be dead tomorrow. And, like I just want to have a good day with my wife. I'm not going to fight about something stupid. I want to have a good day with my dog because we don't know. But it's sort of like you can't build a society when people aren't thinking about, the future or any long-term plans, when we're just survival mode from day to day. And the more we get that message out there and let people know, I think that kind of might be even though from my sense, it's kind of like a sense of hopelessness, but just the reality of our time can can change things radically once we embrace it fully and understand how awful it is.
Mm.
Thoughts on that? As I get all worked up.
Uh, I think it's I don't know, I'm kind of on the verge of tears
Yeah, I feel that
anyway.
way too.
Um, I think what you're feeling now is probably something that Will is familiar with. Um, and I'm a white woman, but I'm also a Jewish woman, and while I'm safe in the United States right now, there's most places in the world where I wouldn't be right now. And plus people who, you know, have a state that governs people is doing really horrific things. So that's a whole nother brain fuck. And um it's it's hard. I think the I hate the word elites, but the party people, the national elected figures think there's nothing they can do. And they are so far divorced from the activists and from the people on the ground. I say my inside the beltway source. It's my brother. I don't have any illusions that he's going to be watching this. Um, I say, like, why aren't we hearing from any of the members of Congress aside from, the five or however many? He's like, well, there's really nothing they can do. They can't break through. It's like, you know, maybe they could if they tried.
Yeah.
Right? If
Hey, let me just pause and give you a virtual hug here. We'll get in on this too. Everybody,
all
virtual hug.
right, virtual hug.
Gosh,
To the extent that it's within my power, I got your backs. And
And us too. I mean, it's hard though, and I think that's where
it
we
actually worked.
started the
Got that
conversation.
hug.
Yeah, we all need a hug, and I think I think there are some places where good is happening, but they're very geographically dispersed. And I think that's a huge problem with our country. Everyone's like, ought to be out in the streets. Well, we have 300 million people and an entire continent. Like, it's not like in wherever, Poland, where you can be in the main, can have several 100,000 people in the main city and actually have a message that needs to be, I don't know.
no,
Um,
I mean, I think you're on the money with that. And, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he talked about a new age of struggle, of civil rights struggle. He predicted exactly what's happening right now in his writings. If anybody wants to read his book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? He talks exactly about the time that we're living in now. It was foreseeable that things would come to a head in this way, both nationally and internationally. And we're in the reckoning phase of America. I think that still people don't understand that we elected a criminal to be president. You know,
Yeah.
like I don't think that has sunk in for a lot of people. People are still wanting to believe that somehow, I don't know, that something else is going on, but that is like that's what we did, and we're gonna pay for that, And I just think that so many people in America are used to escaping accountability as a way of
Yeah.
life, in so many different contexts. Of course, I see it in the race context all the time, but like in many contexts. And those days are pretty much over, and I think that um, there's a much more limited access to escaping accountability for people who aren't super wealthy.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing, to be honest, because I think that people need to hold themselves accountable. I think that people need to learn to do that on an individual basis so that when their values are questioned by an immoral, wicked society, that they'll be ready to stand up for those values. Right now, we have a population that is not ready to stand up for their values. That's what we
Yeah.
have. That's really
And
what.
one of
And
the notes I wrote, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, that's got to change.
Yes. One of the notes I wrote down was hubris, the hubris of the United States, and it's been an issue for a long time. And you're seeing it now with these in the South. The farmers are like appealing to the government. We need help. All these tariffs are killing us. And it's like you guys, and it's so frustrating. Frederick Pogue had a good. He's just like, we're getting a little bit. Uh, we're getting a little bit frustrated with you because it's like all you do. You voted for this guy. This is exactly what he said he was going to do. You're going to lose your land now. And now when you've got this, your whole idea is we can't depend on the government. You're turning and appealing to the government, and you're saying we're not asking for a handout. It's like you're delusional on so many levels. It's like you are asking for a handout right now, and maybe a lot of it is just this. We have this reluctance to call people out on these things, but it starts with just on that basic fundamental level of a father wanting to protect his daughter. It's like I'm not going to sit here and be quiet. Like it's getting harder for me too, just to like even be in the presence of them playing the national anthem, and I'm just like, let's talk about the Epstein files, but I'm like, okay, I'm at the school and my daughter has to be here, so I should just shut up here. There's all these things that are kind of but there's other places where you just like, I just got to bring it up and have these conversations with people, and it's weird. You get through to people and they get that frozen in the headlights kind of look on their face. I hope
Like,
that's a moment of awakening for them.
I mean, people just
But
pretend to say anything, Walter. People
what's
just
that?
like I didn't speak. I'll bring up the genocide. I'll bring up, America's complicity. I'll bring up our criminal president. I'll bring up, the crumbling of our system of laws. All of these things that are happening right before our very eyes, and people just pretend like I didn't say anything. Literally,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of, and then on the topic of delusional people and communicating with people who are stuck in delusions, man, I don't even I don't even bother anymore, Like, I mean, I'm only willing to talk to people who are open-minded. I have 2 requirements to come on my show. You have to come with an open mind and an open heart. Those are the requirements. And I am not accepting anyone else. If you are so stuck in a delusion that you're gonna defend it, no matter what, if you're gonna stay in the burning building saying this is fine while it's on fire, you're gonna get burnt. I'm not gonna be the one to carry you out. I'm not.
Yeah.
People gotta care enough for their own lives, and their own futures in order to do something about them. We can't be babying people into a revolution. So, that's how I feel about it.
That's kind of how I feel about it too. And I don't remember who I was watching. I think it was Anand from the Ink saying, I feel like I have to like drag these people to like wake them up. And so I have a couple things in my mind. There's this idea of soft secession, which is the idea uh, that the blue states would stop sending all of the extra money to the Fed to then be distributed among the states that um, are are not contributing as much. But then I, listen to Jess Piper and um, Michelle Hornish, who are involved in the Every State Blue or Blue Missouri. Jess Piper lives in rural Missouri, and she's like, "You're not funding my life. You're funding the billionaires' life who are siphoning all the money out of the public school system." And so, that's like, oh, okay, well, that's true. But how do I get around the corruption in the places where people are really, I don't know. I feel like we can't abandon people who are trying to fight the same fight, but are in a bad environment to do it. But on the other hand, like at some level, when do you protect yourself? I don't know what the answer to that is.
Yeah.
Like, this is me being in the privilege of Massachusetts, where I I worry about people are getting, kidnapped off the street, but we're gonna have vaccines. So and we're gonna have investment in cures for cancer because people here think that's important. I don't know what the answer is.
There's
I
no right
really
or
don't.
wrong answer. There's no right or wrong answer. Listen, there's just what we decide and choose to do. There's nothing else, and that's one thing that I just want to promote to people. You don't need to feel guilty or feel like you're doing the wrong thing or the right thing or anything. There's just what you decide to do. That's all, and as long as you can live with it and accept it, that's all that matters. Like for me, I'm abandoning this place as a place to live. I'm not going to live in the United States. I have been thinking about leaving for a really long time and now I can, and now I am.
Oh, you
So,
are?
oh yeah, I'm out within the year. Mhm. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And I know that that's a privilege that I'm able to actually even exit this place. I haven't had that privilege until now. So like now I'm taking advantage of it, right? But I was ready because I already had decided in the past that this is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to separate myself from what I find to be I mean, hostile doesn't cover it. I find this place to be evil. Like, honestly, it's an environment of evil in a lot of different ways. There's amazing things here, okay? There's amazing people here. There's amazing people who have done amazing work, and there's amazing institutions and all kinds of stuff that's going on here. But overall, I find this place to be run. The power of this place is has a basis in evil. And that's true of many other countries, but the country that I'm moving to, I can point to specific policies that their governments have put in place, similar to what you're saying, Stephanie, right? Like you're saying, Massachusetts chose to let's go for vaccines. It chose to not cut cancer research, or it chose to actually invest in the health and welfare of the population of Massachusetts citizens. In the country I'm moving to, there are countrywide policies that reflect that same kind of care. In America, you don't see that. People are exploited. The first thing that you should expect in America is to be exploited, and I just can't justify being here any longer and being part of that. I'm starting a business and it's not even going to be an American business because of that, you know? So yeah, but is my choice the right one? Is someone who chooses to stay the wrong one? That's not really, I don't think that's a worthwhile investigation, to be honest, because there's no right answers right now. Like I said, we're about to create something brand new, one way or another. We're about to create something brand new.
Yeah.
And so I think that nobody has the right answer. What we have are people who are invested in their values and taking action to cement those values in our country. And so the question is, what are your values individually? What do you believe in? What are you willing to do in order to show that you believe in it? What are you going to do to show that you care about those values, that they're
Mhm.
fundamental foundational beliefs that you have? For me, even though I'm leaving the country and I'm gaining some peace for myself, I'm going to be coming back here all the time, doing live events, doing online seminars, making that space for people, helping people reflect until we have a critical mass of people who are ready for revolution. So, that's what I can do. What can you do?
And for the benefit of the listeners, I want to emphasize that you and I are going to continue talking no matter where in the world you are. And everybody has to make that decision for themselves. It's like I have privileges that, other people are. It's like people in the transgender community. If you have the power to leave, it's really important because you are really unsafe right now. And so I've had at times people say, well, you need to stay and fight. And it's like everybody needs to do what in any context, you have to stay safe. You have to stay in this for the long term. Because as we've said, this is going to go beyond the end of our lives. Be a force of good for all the years that you're given. Taking care of yourself is first, second, and third in that equation. And so, yeah, but everybody in the chat, a few people were worried. But Will, you're in this fight with us for the end. I know it.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, your heart's in the right place. So yes.
Yeah, I'm actually going to New York soon, and I'm meeting with the civil rights attorney, planning for the future. I am certain I will be detained in the future. I'm certain. I already know. So like I'm planning for it right now. Like
Well,
so
yeah.
I'm gonna be back here. I'm gonna be flying in and out. And I'm sure at some point I will get detained. I'm just sure of it. So yeah,
I
I got
don't even think there's any um doubt. My in-laws, two older white people are doing their really expensive vacation to Iceland and Ireland. And even they, on their way, they'll probably be fine. They're old. They might be in a wheelchair. Like, they might be fine. But do I worry about leaving the country and trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I need to delete from my phone? And are
Yeah.
they going to take me? And if I leave with my family, could I ever come back? I mean, like, I think it's worse for uh, people of color, people who have a Spanish accent, which just blows my fucking mind. But it really doesn't, because I know that sort of evil exists in the world. But um, I don't know where I was going with this. It's scary.
Yeah,
No, but making
I think that's
yeah,
your go.
making the proper all we can do is make contingency plans. I think you're better off not taking any digital devices when you go. Don't take a phone at all, and you can still print out tickets and do that kind of stuff. And I think that's because my wife returned in Easter. She'd gone down to visit. She had to sit and talk, sit in a room and get interviewed for 3 hours. And this is an Easter, so it's sort of like, eh, eh, it's just the reality of that. But I think if you're making preparations, it's like, and people will be dismissive of you and call you alarmist. But this is the moment where you really do have to fortify your own awareness of what you know to be true, because so much of the problems that we're in, because we got these external powers that tell us, we're constantly getting gaslit. Oh, that oppression doesn't exist. That abuse doesn't exist. You're not getting exploited. And right now we're at the point where it's like your very survival depends on you being realistic about the level of danger that surrounds us. And it's, everybody's at a different place. They're in a different scenario. They're facing different dangers. But the more prepared you are to, and we can't be 100% prepared for some. It's so awful. We can't be prepared for all of it.
Yeah.
But the more prep work you do, the more you feel empowered rather than to fall into despair. And that also, it's like, even if it's, I was going to tell a little anecdote about, when we first had our baby, and here I was like, oh, like, what's the future going to hold? Are we going to be able to do this? And she just held the baby and she's like, it's going to be fine. And I'm like, how are you so sure? It's like, because I'm not going to accept any other possibility in the future, then it's going to be fine. And I think there's a big difference between men and women there, where they can just like, we're going to manifest this reality and we're just not going to accept it. No, it's something that I've seen it to this point where it changed my perspective on. And I'm just like, that's why I'm an advocate. We need women in positions of power. I have nice people who tell me, they're like, you should run for office. Like, no, my wife should, my daughters should. We've had enough white men in office. All my effort is behind getting more women in office.
I support that.
I support it too. People have told me that I should run, and I sadly don't have the physical strength to do it, but I've considered it too. And, like, I don't think women can screw it up any more than the men already have. So
Yeah.
I just
Well, they're
pre-ordered
just,
Kamala's book today, and I'm
oh,
really
good.
interested to see how candid she gets.
Mm.
In the sphere though of it in writing, because I write these articles about this, and I made the point the other day how, only one of the Republicans out of how many were there? 188 Republicans, only one signed for the release of the Epstein, which is a half of 1%. But three of the 31 women who are Republicans signed. So it's like 9%. And people are just like, they're like, well, they're bad women too. And it's like, that's a big difference between a half of a percent and 9%. And just like, that's one of the places where I have hope. It's like the more we can encourage women to get in positions of power, the more we can encourage people to get in the primaries. That's one of my places of activism. That's my short-term activism. But it's like, I just feel better if I fend off my anxiety by kind of working for something that at least has a chance of making things a little better.
Well,
Mm.
I mean, power building in places where we don't have power, and particularly in red states, is super important. It's just, uh, I think a lot of people in power in the Democrats in power in the red states just like get in their own way too
Yeah.
often.
Yes.
Honestly, that our side just does not understand power. I honestly
Agree. Agree.
like I think that all of the actions I see most Democrats making show that they have an understanding of power that will never lead them to an outcome of coming out as a winner. And I just, and I think that the outcomes show that, and that's one of the reasons I don't think it's a proper vehicle for change, only because I don't, they are determined to hold steadfast to their old timey traditional ways of doing things. I mean, that party is ancient, like both parties are, but like, you know,
Yeah.
we won't allow the next generation to lead. It's a big mistake.
Huge mistake. Yeah. And me, I don't know, Walter, I think you're in my boat. I don't know how old you are, Will, but like Gen X, we've gotten screwed every which way. And,
Yeah.
the boomers are just, yes, want younger people. I'm a little bit pissed that we're going to go straight from the boomers to the millennials. I mean,
Yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries, and there are a few, but mostly not.
Yeah. The more I find young people, I just keep being hopeful. Get some young people involved in the primary. Run for anything and any level. That's another thing I've been telling people. There's a lot of power in some of these things further down the line, and then we're just like what you were talking about before with the soft secession. If we stopped paying into the federal government could just print up more money if they wanted to. So I mean, but if we can just do anything that delays, like anything that delays, it's like if we can't win right now, just delay, just slow things down. This upcoming, I hope they shut down the government. I hope they, it's just like every month the government is shut down is, that's significantly less power that they have. We'll
Mhm.
see what happens. I mean, the last time they just capitulated without a fight, and hopefully they figured out they can't, that's not acceptable. And I don't have any faith that they did figure that out. As I can tell
I'm looking
Will's
at Will,
face
and
that he
his
doesn't
face
have
is
faith
like,
that either.
yeah, okay.
I have no more hope for that party figuring out how to wield power. I really don't. I don't. I also, and this is a little bit conspiratorial, perhaps, but I don't think they want to.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't really understand why, but I'm pretty sure that that is true. And so I don't know what's going on behind the scenes politically, but to me, it's a bunch of stuff that we are not privy to, and the
Yeah.
decision making is happening at a level that we're not going to see. So I look at, again, caring is an action, right? I see your actions, I know you care, right? Depending upon what those actions are. I look at the Democratic Party the same way. I see your actions. I don't see the actions of a party that wants to gain power. I don't see the actions of a party that wants to fight fascism. I don't see that. And so I have to, believe my eyes and ears, not not Donald Trump, like he said.
Well,
So,
there's, I think, a lot of, yeah, I think there's a lot going on with the donors that, like,
Yeah,
I'm with you. I don't understand what the hell's going on, but I do know there's big money involved. Um, Also, to be a non-conspiracy theorist, the whole idea that we actually elected Trump and we should reap what we sow. I am not totally sure that, like, he actually legitimately
one.
got elected.
yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah,
evidence that shows that that's probably not the case. But, the fact that it was close enough that any kind of manipulation could
Right.
have allowed him
yeah,
to get the
Yeah.
number
Yeah.
know that he won, to me, that alone is still just as big an indictment. I don't even know, at least at this point, if it even matters that much. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's absolute
you
fair.
know, and just like as we look at this, yeah, there's big money. There's this complete. They've got all this wealth, but what and yesterday when I was talking to Paul Vigna about his book, like the debt sitting there, and there's the real possibility that we're just going to see the complete collapse of like the entire economy. I mean, the people in charge now do not know what they're doing, and money only has value because we have faith in money. And I don't see any reason why the rest of the world should continue to look at the US dollar. And here we all are, the fools that we are, spending all our lives chasing after dollars on this promise that one day we can retire. I don't feel like that's going to happen. It's not real. I don't think there's going to be food. We've just deported all the people that harvested the food. All of our farms are going bankrupt. So, I mean, completely set aside from all these things we're planning, there might be these massive collapses. Foomp. All these guys that are rich no longer have nothing because they'll still have their properties and stuff. But there's foreign nations because they're all over the world. These foreign nations could step in and start arresting those people. So, and I mean, if a war breaks out, like a world war, we're not going to be the good guys in this war if that happens. So there are these kind of extremes. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to try and get a couple progressives. I'm not even going to try and get them elected. I'm just going to use my platform to elevate progressives, try to get some young people to vote. That's where I'm thinking, because I don't want to think about all that other stuff. I'm aware of it, but I'm just like, that doesn't make me happy. I want to have a nice day with my family. I want to hold on to the illusion that maybe this will be okay. Maybe that's stupid, but I want today to be good. So
No,
that's
I don't
that's
think
kind
that's
of where I'm
stupid.
at.
I don't
Cultivate
think that's stupid.
cultivate your power where it lies. Cultivate your power where it lies. That is what we have to do. We can't pretend like we can transform the entire country overnight. That's not realistic. What we can do is the things that we can do within our local communities and with our platforms. That's what we could do, right? As soon as I moved from New York City to North Carolina, what did I do? I started a meetup group just to meet up with strangers in my community to have conversations about race. That was 5 years ago. And now here I am starting a whole business where I can expand on that work that I started all those years ago, just, because it was my values, right? And I was just living those values in any way that I possibly could. It may not seem like enough, but it is. That's what we need to learn to accept, that it is in fact enough, taking action, towards our values. It's just that we don't do it enough. There's not enough of us doing that. That is the problem.
Right? Yeah, and that there are so many of us who are not, and it's so distributed where it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
Well, we're closing in on time. That's a beautiful place. I guess I'll give you guys a moment for final thoughts. Thanks all the people that jumped in with your lovely comments. This was I never know where these conversations are going to go, but thank you guys. It was really uh, precious today. I appreciate both you guys very much. And yeah, any final thoughts, Will?
Yeah, I just saw some North Carolina people in the chat. Shout out to my North Carolina people. I was born and raised in Durham, and I live close to there now. My family still lives here, and I am leaving them. Okay? I've I've talked to them. I'm like, I'm out, y'all. I want them to come with me. I want them to leave too, but they don't want to. This is their home. We got generations here in this country, but for me, I know that like I have suffered enough. I have suffered enough, y'all. A lot. I am good, and I'm going to take my peace so that I can be strong enough to withstand what I know is coming. Detainment, further oppression, suppression, and people trying to prey on my downfall. You know what I mean? So I need that for me to be able to continue living my values. And you guys don't be afraid to choose what's right for you in order to live your values as well. Okay. And don't be ashamed of doing it, regardless of what that is for you. Okay. It is enough and it's meaningful if you take action towards what those values are.
Well, that was really beautiful. I really enjoyed talking with both of you. It was great to meet you, Will. I would love to continue conversations whenever. Um, I think that you're right. We can hold the folks that you love close, and and do the things that matter to you, and talk your values. Live your values, but also speak about them loudly. Um, and let's all hang out together on Substack, because that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks to both you guys. Love you both. Appreciate all the work that you do. Thanks to all the people who joined in.
Thanks,
I need to
guys.
go have a nap. These conversations always work me hard, but appreciate it. Thank you. We'll talk to you the next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.